Mesechus Sukkah, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Aleph. Sukkah shehi gevoya lamalo mi-esrim amma pesula. The Tanna Kamma says that a sukkah which is more than 20 amos high is possible. Explains the Bartanura that the Tanna Kamma holds that we need a diras arai, a temporary dwelling place for a sukkah, learned from Psukim in Sefer Devarim. It's meant to be for 7 days and it should be a temporary dwelling. And therefore, if it was taller than 20 amos, explains the Bartanura, Ein odom oise diroso diras alai, ela diras keva. There would have to be, to become a more than 20 amos high, one would need a more of a permanent structure, foundations, and therefore this is not good and possible for sukkahs. However, Rabbi Yehuda Machshir, Rabbi Yehuda does not learn this drasha and says that a sukkah needs to be a diras keva, according to the Bartanura. It needs to be a more permanent structure, and therefore 20 amos is certainly okay, above 20 amos. Says the Bartanura, Ve'ein alocha k'Rabbi Yehuda, because a sukkah taller than 20 amos would actually be possible. The Mishnah continues with 3 other examples where the sukkah would be a sukkah pesula. She'eino gavoya asorat tefachim, if the sukkah is not 10 tefachim high, that will be possible. Explains the Bartanura that will be a dira surucha, an unpleasant sukkah. Ve'ein odom dor b'dira surucha, a person wouldn't live in such an uncomfortable, unpleasant sukkah. V'she'ein lo shloisha defonos, if the sukkah does not have 3 walls. The Gemara learns this from Psukim in Pashas Emor. The words sukkos, how the words sukkos are spelt, that one must have 3 walls, at least 3 walls, for a kosher sukkah. And also, shechamosa meruba mitzilosa, that the shade should be more mitzilosa. If the shade is less than the chama, the sunlight, it would be possible. Says the Bartanura, Ho b'shovin she'achama ketzeil k'sheira. From the Mishnah, the way the Mishnah is worded, shechamosa meruma mitzilosa, where there is more sunlight than shade, it would be possible. From that we can infer, if it was equal, that would be okay. Explains the Bartanura, this is only at ground level if they would be equal. V'davka shehin shovim milamato b'karkoi sasuka. At ground level, if there was equal area of sunlight and shade, that would be okay, because as one knows, the light would diffuse from the height through the schach, and therefore, if it was equal at ground level, it would show there must have been more schach than sunlight at the schach level. And therefore, that would be okay, because there would in fact be more schach than sunlight at the level of the schach. Continues the Mishnah. Sukkah yeshana, an old sukkah. Beis Shammai poslim. Beis Shammai say that's possible. Beis Hillel machshirin. Beis Hillel say that's fine, that's kosher. Va'ezahu's sukkah yeshana. What does it mean, an old sukkah? Explains the Mishnah. Kol she'asor kodim lachag shloshim yom. If the sukkah was made prior to 30 days before Sukkot, that would be considered an old sukkah. Explains the Bartanura. The Beis Shammai hold that the sukkah needs to be made lishma, for Yom Tov, according to Beis Shammai. And if a person just made a sukkah not for Yom Tov, prior to 30 days before Yom Tov, that would be possible. However, if a person just made the sukkah stam without thinking about it within 30 days of the Yom Tov, then, explains the Bartanura, as during that period people will be shoelim behilchas achad, people are discussing, asking questions about sukkahs. Therefore, bistam, if a person just put up this structure, we can assume stam or isa sukkah, he's made it l'shem chag, he's made it for sukkahs. And therefore, during that period, 30 days prior to sukkahs, even Beis Shammai would agree that bistoma, if a person just made the sukkah, it would be kosher because it would be considered made for sukkahs. But koidem shloshim, prior to the 30 days stoma, if a person just put up the structure for shade, but not thinking about Yom Tov, lav l'shem chaghu, according to Beis Shammai. However, Beis Hillel machshirin, says the Bartanura, the lav bo'u sukkah l'shem chag. Beis Hillel are not of the opinion that one needs a sukkah for Yom Tov itself. If the sukkah is made for shade, that's sufficient. Concludes the Mishnah. Avlim asor l'shem chag. If even according to Beis Shammai, if a person made this sukkah specifically for sukkahs, afilu mitchilas hashana, even from the beginning of the year, immediately after the previous sukkahs, kashera, it would be kosher because the person has specifically thought this is for the Yom Tov of sukkahs. The Tiferes Yisrael mentions, based on Yerushalmi, that even according to Beis Hillel, who says that stoma, if a person made a sukkah for shade, that would be good enough. Nevertheless, mikol makom nochon sheyechadish ba'aschach tefach al tefach b'mokom echad. One should do something new for the sukkah, as this wasn't specifically made for sukkahs. Even according to Beis Hillel, if a person made a sukkah stam just for shade rather than making it specifically for sukkahs. Although we're not paskening shailas from these mishnayos, it's worth noting that even according to Beis Hillel, if a person made a sukkah specifically for sukkahs, but then left that sukkah until the following year when it was going to be used once again, as one sukkah has passed, that would now have fulfilled the duty of that sukkah for that sukkah, and therefore the following year, again, one would have to be machadish bodova, as mentioned in the Tiferes Yisrael. One would have to make something new, a tefach, buy a tefach, some new schach, particularly for that sukkah. And this is more important still if a person would be living in that sukkah during the rest of the year. Then certainly, says the Mishnah Berurah, when it came to the following year, a person would have to perhaps raise the schach and replace the schach specifically for the coming sukkahs.